Your reasons for listening to the show, well, those are your own. But just keep in mind that the views, information, or opinions expressed on the Tuddle Daily Podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of our sponsors. Yeah, it's called free speech, people. Nobody's forcing you to listen.
Get ready for your daily dose of Tuddle.
The all-time greatest intern/producer we've ever had, of course, Tuddle. Tuddle in Florida.
From the Hobo Fish Camp, it's the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
No wonder nobody likes you, Tuddle. Everything's a goddamn debate.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far. I've been giving out a lot of different sites and stuff right now, but the only one you need to know now is Tuddle.net/vote. That's Tuddle.net/vote. That's TUDDLE.net/vote. Because guess what, guys? I did it. You know, you guys have been hearing me promote this, telling you to go to the Orlando Weekly website. Been telling you guys to write in the Tuddle Daily Podcast as best podcast not on the radio in Orlando for Orlando Weekly, and we made it. We are there. And when I say we, this is because of you guys. It really is. My supporters, my fans. I like calling you guys supporters because I've told you this. You guys are just as important as I am. And this is a victory, not just for me. This is a victory for you guys. Now we're in the top 10. Now let's go out and try to win that bitch. If you can. If you've already written me in, I need you to go back to the website again, to the Orlando Weekly. But I wanted to make it nice and easy for you to be able to do. Go to Tuddle.net/vote. That's VOTE. Vote for the Tuddle Daily Podcast. I'm the second podcast down from the top. You know, I really do think, at first, I was like, you know what? It would just be nice to be nominated. Now I got to have a goal. Yes, I would love to win this bitch. Do I think I'm going to win it? No. I mean, it's going to be really, really hard to knock off Tom and Dan. But, man, could you imagine if the Tuddle Daily Podcast made the top 3? And I know some of the podcasts that are actually nominated. What they did was they took 10, I guess the 10 most write-ins, and they put those up there now so people are able to vote out of those 10. Now, a couple of them I know personally. I know a With the Side of Chaos podcast. I know Funny to Informing. And I know A Mediocre Time with Tom and Dan. Those are the ones that I know. Now, if I want to be in the top 3, one of those ones has to go. I don't know, man. I liked, because I've been on With the Side of Chaos podcast, Patricio and all that crew. Oh my God, I had such a blast up there the last time. But I got to tell you, I still think, and no offense, guys, I still think I'm putting out better quality audio. I think that I am putting out better content all by myself. See, that's the thing about a lot of these shows that I'm talking about. They have casts. They have a crew. They have studios. They have great equipment. And a lot of you guys probably think that I'm bullshitting you when I say this. No. When I first started the podcast, I was talking into an iPhone 8. Not even with a microphone connection. I was just talking directly into a mother effing iPhone 8, editing the whole thing on an app called Twisted Wave on my iPhone. I would fool around with it in post-production to try to make myself sound better. And then I ended up investing in this Rode microphone, which actually has made my show sound professional as hell. And you also want to know what makes my show sound professional as hell? Having an amazing producer, Vulture. See, and that's the other thing. Let me take a step back, because I know a lot of you guys are like, well, Tuddle, I thought you said you do the show by yourself. On the air, I pretty much do it by myself. I have Ciroc, I have guests on, but I also have an amazing producer, Vulture, behind the scenes. I got Josh Kale. Up in Canada, who was my production guy. I got Amy Sinha. She is also Sinha. She is one of my other voiceover people. She's also a really, really good friend of mine. I got Charlie Alamo. Charlie Alamo has been helping me out from the very, very beginning. And also Ciroc. So, yes, I do have people. But for the most part, I'm doing this show on my iPhone 12 now with a Rode microphone, which is, not like a Rode, but Rode, Rode. It's the brand. And if you're a podcaster, don't think you got to spend a lot of money to be able to get good, great quality. No, you don't need that. You don't need that at all. I'm able to do this. I'm able to go do a little bit of tweaking of the sound, add a little bit of dynamic processing on it, and I'll put the sound of my podcast up against any of the other ones that are on this list. Now, Funny to Informing, they are really, really good friends of mine, John and Chris. They were one of the first podcasts that I was a guest on their show. They were able to help me build my audience and jumpstart my audience, really, as well as Tom and Dan. Like, I owe a lot of the growth of my podcast to Tom and Dan. I really, really do, because every time I go on their show, I think I kill it. Unlike all these other guests that they have come on their show, I bring something to the table. I bring, just polarizing stories. I don't put up with Tom's bullshit. That's the thing about it. I think we mix it up very, very well, just like I mix it up very well with the guys from Funny to Informing. And I actually think that I'm going to be on their show this weekend. See, a lot of you guys are probably saying, well, Tuddle, why are you talking about your competition? I'm talking about my competition because I think, I don't want people to think that I have a big head, but I'm going to go through the list of some of the other podcasts that I do not even know or have even heard of. I know that they've heard of me. They may want to say that they haven't heard of me, but I know for a fact that they have, especially with my name being on in Orlando. And I'll admit that. I'll admit my name has helped me out when it comes to building a podcasting platform here in Central Florida. Even though my analytics on my hosting podcasting website, Podomatic, says that nobody in Orlando is listening to me, obviously somebody is listening to me in Orlando. I don't want any of you guys to think that I'm getting an ego now, like I'm getting a big head, because I got to tell you, I've talked about this when I first started the podcast. After being on a nationally syndicated radio show, one of the biggest radio shows in the history of Florida, on the Bubba Love Sponge show, where hundreds of thousands of people would hear my voice every single day on his show, and then to start a podcast, and then to the first day be like, oh shit, I had only 10 people download my stuff, and then just to see it just grow and grow and grow, I'm telling you, it's quite the accomplishment. It really is. So one of the next podcasts that is on the list is something called No New Friends Podcast. Now, I really don't understand this. No New Friends Podcast. Does that mean that you guys have already, you guys already have enough listeners? You already have enough friends? You don't need any more friends? Do you not trust people? But the description is No New Friends Podcast featuring hosts Scott, Mary, and Chris. Ooh, a little threesome action there. Join in as we talk about real life, pop culture, history, and anything fun. So, do you think there might be a little reverse polygamy thing going on here? Usually it's the man that has a couple of chicks on the side and everything. But maybe Mary is the head honcho. Mary is the person that wears the pants when it comes to this podcast, and it's reverse polygamy. Like Scott and Chris, it's kind of like that show Big Love that used to be on HBO back in the day, where they had a whole bunch of houses and stuff for the different wives, and they all had to rotate. Does Scott have to stay with Mary or does Mary have to stay with Scott one night, and then Mary with Chris? I'm gonna have to go through. See, that's something I'm gonna do day by day. I'm gonna pick a podcast from the list, play a little bit of their stuff, and I'll give an honest review of it. I don't want you to think I'm going to be one of those people that's going to be like, oh, this sucks, just because they're my competition. No, if it's good, I'll admit it. I told you guys, one of my favorite things in the world is to have my mind changed, and I want to play some of this stuff. If it's good, I will be like, you know what, this is way better than anything that I'm putting out. So, No New Friends Podcast, that is on the list as well. Now, this next podcast, I'm being dead serious. I have never heard of them before, but I'm looking at some of the quality. It is the Nah Dude, NAHDOOD. Now, if there's any of these podcasts that I'm mentioning that you listen to, I would like to hear from you. I would like to know about these people. Like, seriously, if I'm being honest, I don't want to be one of those people that is just trying to start shit, I want to work with these people. I think working with these people, depending on if they're nice people, or if they're assholes, like, I don't want to have anything to do with them, and I ain't gonna put up with that shit. But I gotta admit, some of the stuff that I've seen from this Nah Dude, NAH Dude, DOOD, their quality is like really, really, really good. Like, seriously good. Like, some of the best that I have heard or seen in a really, really, really long time. But like I said, I mean, you can have all the equipment in the world, you can sound good, but it's all about the content. It's about what you're bringing to the table. Are you bringing something new, exciting, polarizing, or are you playing it safe? Because there are a lot of these podcasts out there that are playing it safe. They don't know that line, that gray area. They've never been on broadcast terrestrial radio where they have to walk that tightrope where anything that they say or do at any minute could actually just get you fired. Could get you easily fired just like that. I can't even snap that well. Really can't whistle that as well either. But I can't do those really, really loud whistles. You know, where the people put their fingers in their mouth and go that. Yeah, I can't do that one bit at all. So the Nah Dude podcast actually looks really, really interesting. And they actually seem like really, really cool guys. So somebody that I could easily hang out with. But I'm sorry, man. I at least got to make the top 3. I wish you nothing but the best. But right now, there's only 4 people. Me, with the Side of Chaos podcast, Funny to Informing, and Tom and Dan. Moving on to this next one. I did not know who this was. I didn't even know. Well, I knew that he was doing podcasts. Ryan Holmes. Now, Ryan Holmes is a guy that I really, really not have much interaction with when it comes to just getting to know somebody. But Ryan Holmes seems like a really, really cool guy. But I thought this was best podcast not to be on the radio. I mean, Ryan Holmes actually has a terrestrial radio station to be able to promote what he's doing right now. Now, so that's why I'm not going to feel bad about actually going out and campaigning and using all of the resources that I have in my power, all the radio shows that I have ever worked with before in my life. I'm going to call in some favors because I don't think that it's fair that Ryan Holmes has a terrestrial radio station like Real Radio 104.1, The Monsters in the Morning. But I also find it kind of interesting. I got a text from Russ saying that he voted for me a couple of times. His wife voted for me as well. So I listen, I'm not complaining. Matter of fact, I think it's cool as hell that Russ Rollins is actually throwing some support behind my podcast when he's got somebody on his own show that has a podcast called Poking the Bear. Now, I don't know, like, why did you come up with Poking the Bear? Because I've heard some of the stuff that Ryan Holmes has done, and the whole thing Poking the Bear is kind of like, you know, causing problems or playing devil's advocate on stuff. Ryan Holmes just doesn't sound like that type of guy that is one of those debatable type guys. Is it a comedy show? Is it politics? Like, for real, is Poking the Bear really poking the bear? Or is that just a word that they're using? They're like, hey, it'll be funny to call our show Poking the Bear. Now, I know that I'm also not very original. I call my goddamn show the Tuddle Daily Podcast, which really is not daily because I don't do it on Saturdays and Sundays anymore. So he could easily just throw that right back in my face. And like I said, I'm not talking anything bad about Ryan Holmes. I'm not. I think he has grown tremendously when it comes to being on the air. But, I mean, there's not a lot of these comedians that can just come in and just do a radio show. I mean, doing radio is completely different than doing stand-up comedian. comedy. I remember that Russ, one of the worst interviews that you could ever get is when a comedian would try to come in and set up his own routine instead of just coming in and talking and being real, just being a part of the show. Because I got to tell you, some of the comedians that we've had in, Russ will get rid of them, will kick their ass out of the studio so quickly if they're one of those comedians that are just trying to set up their routine and cannot think quick on their feet like radio people do. Also, comedians, they need to have that automatic just like affection from the audience. They got to be able to hear the laughs. You don't get to hear laughs on the radio. You got to be your own judgment of character of what's funny and not funny. It's not like I can do radio shows and work out a routine. That's the thing about it is I got to come up with fresh new ideas every single day off the top of my head. I don't get to go out and open up for people and find out what works and what doesn't work. You know, I mean, I can look at the analytics and see, you know, who has listened. But, I mean, I can't tell if they like the show or not. They could have downloaded it and be like, man, this is the biggest piece of shit that I've ever listened to. Fuck you, Tuddle. I'm never listening to another one of your podcasts. So what I'm just trying to say is I think that Ryan Holmes has a little bit of an advantage there when it comes to being able to promote everything that he's got going on. So that's why I'm not going to feel bad when I call in all the resources that I have, all the contacts that I have built up and incurred during my time in Orlando as well as Tampa. Hell, you know what? This podcast is nationwide, baby. I got people listening to me in Wichita, Kansas. I got people listening to me all over the world. I got Afghanistan people listening to me. I got Pakistan listening to me. I got people in Ghana listening to me. I got people in Espanol, that is actually Spain people for you Americans that don't know that. So yes, I'm going to call in every single favor that I have ever built up, and I'm calling them in now. I want to shock the world. Now, this is another podcast that I have not heard of, but now that I'm looking at it, it's actually, I like their page. I actually want to start listening to them. And like I told you guys earlier, I'm going to go and find some clips of some of these podcasts that I'm talking about today so I can actually review. I want to hear it. I want to hear what they're talking about. I want to judge them because, and you know what? You probably think it's a dickhead, egotistical thing of me wanting to review their podcast. No, not at all. Listen, I've worked with some of the biggest names in radio. And even though that I'm not in radio right now, because they're not hiring, radio is kind of dying on the vine right now as it is. That's why everybody is doing podcasting. I wish that I would have done it a lot earlier like Tom and Dan did. But this next one is Orlando Out of Context Podcast. Their description, Orlando, Florida lifestyle podcast featuring conversations on living in Central Florida. Your hosts, Brian and Stephanie, talk about their experiences living in one of the most visited cities in the world. Discover Orlando through our diverse locals. Now, is Brian and Stephanie, are they a couple? I'm just asking. Not trying to be rude. Not trying to be rude at all. I want to see here and see what's going on. Now, from the pictures that I'm looking at here, they definitely look like they could be a couple. And I got to tell you, cute-looking couple there. Wish them the best. They seem like really, really nice people. But I will be finding some clips from Orlando Out of Context to be able to review their show. Because like I said, out of 22 years, I think I know what good content is. What good, polarizing content. See, that's the thing about it. One of the things that I learned here in Orlando was be funny. Always be funny. Always be closing. It's just always be funny. That's what you want to be here in Orlando. Now, when you get over to Tampa, shit gets a little bit tougher. Seriously, Tampa is like Mexico. Orlando is like the border towns. It's a little bit rougher in Tampa, and it's just a different type of radio. But I've been able to take both of those type of radios, the funny and the polarizing and the in-your-face type radio, and meld them together And I think that's why the podcast that I've done, that I'm doing at the moment, has just been a hit. People have been catching on. My downloads have been growing every single day. I've been doing it a little over a year now. Today's episode 416. I've been able to do a 416 podcasts in a little bit over a year. You know, for about 3 or 4 months there, I did a podcast every single day. Every single day. Even Saturdays and Sundays, I did a podcast. And you know what? I might get right back into doing that right now just so I can drive this Best of Orlando podcast home. Maybe it's going to take me doing a couple of shows a week. Maybe it's going to take me doing a couple of shows a day. Maybe it's going to take me doing a live stream every single night on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tuddle. Now, this is the next one that I want to check out. I really, really, really do. And I'm going to check this one out because I'm actually a nerd, but it is called Full Frontal Nerdity Show. Full Frontal Nerdity Show. It's a podcast here, but they talk about all things nerdy. And I am one of the biggest fucking nerds out there. Matter of fact, I want to be a podcast guest on their show. I don't even know. I probably should not be inviting myself, but I think their name is Ken, Arthur, and Chantal. I want to be on their show in the worst way. I'm going to reach out to them, and hold on. I just subscribed to their show because I definitely want to check this out. Guys, you guys all know that I'm a nerd. When I was married, I went to Dragon Con every single year up in Atlanta. I worked my ass off to save and do what I needed to do to be able to afford to go up to Atlanta every single year in September to be able to go to Dragon Con. So this podcast is right up my alley. I wonder if they talk about Doctor Who. Maybe I can be their Doctor Who guest, maybe their Doctor Who correspondent, and call in and start talking about Doctor Who with them. So yes, Full Frontal Nerdity. I'm going to check out their show, and they might seem like they might be really, really cool people. Now, finally, let's move on to this. Legal Morse of Action. Let's see. Legal Morse of Action, because I want to see what is going on. Legal Morse of Action. Now, what if this is like some like big shot like lawyer that I don't want to fuck with? Legal Morse of Action podcast. Let me see here. A Legal Morse of Action every Thursday at 5:35 p.m. Oh, it is a woman. Oh, okay. All right. All right, Legal Morse of Action. I'm going to check this woman out because I got to tell you, she can get it. Whoever her name is, and I could be wrong, but I see a woman's picture there as the thumbnail for the podcast, Legal Morse of Action. And I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on whoever the host of Legal Morse of Action. Let me see here. That's the thing about it. Law offices of Aaron Morse. Ooh. Aaron Morse, founding attorney. Let me see where Aaron Morse is. Yeah, Aaron Morse can get it. But I don't want a Me Too thing now. Aaron Morse, Esquire, is a highly knowledgeable, aggressive Orlando divorce and family law attorney that is passionate about helping families. You know what? I'm going to give her a call because I actually need her help. Aaron Morse, forget about whatever I just said. I'm going to take a quick break and be back in a few minutes because I got to check out a little bit more of Aaron Morse, Esquire. You are listening to the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
Great news, folks. You now have the chance to see the face in front of that sexy voice. Right you are, sir. The Tuddle Daily Podcast streams Monday to Friday on YouTube. Anything can happen at the Hobo Fish Camp. Okay, sir. That's enough. Okay. So go to youtube.com/Tuddle. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified anytime Tuddle goes live. Good job, sir. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Compliments? Or do you just want to tell Tuddle to fuck off? In any event, contact Tuddle. Tuddle@gmail.com. It's, Tuddle with 2 Ds, dumbass.
Welcome back to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Before I get into my next topic, I want to take a little bit of time. Well, first off, go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tuddle. When you go there, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button, because when you hit that bell button, you're going to get alerted to any time I go live or put up any brand new content. You know, I am seeing, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I don't know if it's because of, some of the weed that I've been smoking or some of the wax or whatever, but these big-ass ospreys, they have been out here catching fish left and right. And do you think fish actually have the concept of, all right, now when birds fly over, you see the fish, they kind of move around. So I think they understand the danger of the bird itself. But what do you think of fish that really doesn't understand or get the concept, that is just, swimming down the river here, and then all of a sudden a bird swoops down and you're swimming 1 minute, and then the next you are flying through the air? Do fish get the concept of actual flying? Like, seriously, it took humans a very, very long time to be able to understand the concept of flying with the Wright brothers. So what I'm trying to say is, I really don't think fish get the concept of what flying is actually about. That's got to be a hell of a trip. And do you realize, this is not a good trip. This is not when a human is flying on an airplane, you're going on vacation. I know a lot of people have fear of flying, but a lot of people like flying because they know that they're going to someplace new. They're traveling. Something that I've always wanted to do. But no, this is not good for you, fish. Because as soon as this bird lands, he's about to eat you alive with his talons and his beak. He's going to rip you apart while you're still alive. Not even good. I mean, birds are kind of dicks when they do that, too. They don't even try to kill you like a lion or a cheetah or any of the big cats. They don't try to kill you first. No, they just start eating you alive like a wild dog or a hyena or a grizzly bear. I've always just thought about that because I just saw a big-ass osprey flying by with a big-ass mullet, and it was almost like I could see the eyes of the mullet, and it was, and it just had kind of it just made me think. It was like, man, does that fish really know what's going on right now? Does he get the concept of flying? And does he really realize what awaits him as soon as this bird gets back to its nest? So, now, didn't mean to go off on a little bit of a high stoner thought there, but yesterday when I found out that I made the final 10 for the Orlando Weekly Best of podcast, not on the radio, my mom was really, really excited. She was happy. And she said something to me that actually really, really made me cry a little bit, and I'm about to cry about it now like a bitch. My dad just passed away, and I've talked about this. My dad grew up, did not even graduate out of high school. He learned a trade, just like I learned in radio. I did graduate from high school. I actually got my 2-year degree from Daytona Beach Community College. But my dad was able to start a business of his own after he learned a trade and was able to work his way up, make connections, make himself valuable. And that's when he ended up getting hired by Florida Atlantic. And Florida Atlantic would be absolutely nothing right now if it was not for my dad and the connections of being able to get that company up here in Orlando. So what I'm trying to say is that my mom said that dad would absolutely be proud of me. And that shit really made me cry, man. Because he didn't get to see this. And I know that this is this is nowhere near a big award or something. But it just shows that hard work pays off. I could have given up. Could have given up after the first week when I was barely getting any downloads. If it wasn't for Vulture and Charlie and Lamo and Tom and Dan and all those people that inspired me, kept me going. My parents, when I first started, they were very, very hesitant about radio in general, and then even more hesitant when I decided that I wanted to start a podcast. And they were patient with me. And then I started making money. I was able to start providing for the family. I was able to start paying for rent. And it meant a lot. And I was right. Dad even told me before, he said one of the proudest things that he was proud of me of was building something of my own. And I just wish that he could have been around to be able to see that I got nominated for, best podcast in the Central Florida, Orlando area. So I apologize about being a bitch there.
St. Pete police now asking for some help, and social media delivered. You may have seen the buzz online, a search for a prosthetic leg.
Yep, only in Florida. Only in Florida, where we're going to be running a story about somebody stealing a prosthetic leg. I mean, there have been a lot of stories about prosthetic legs that have happened in the Central Florida area. Sorry, I'm still trying to get rid of some of the snot out of my nose from being a big-ass pussy, from crying about my dad not being around to see me make the finals of some dumbass podcast competition. Now, looking back on it, I feel like a real fucking bitch there. Anyways, I don't get it. There was a story not too long ago out at Universal Studios. I don't know if you guys remember the Dueling Dragons roller coaster they had out there. Well, some guy thought it would be a good idea to wear his prosthetic leg while riding Dueling Dragons. And if you've never been on the Dueling Dragons roller coaster when it was around, there's some pretty good tight turns there that put a lot of G-force on your body. And if you got a prosthetic leg, yeah, you might want to make sure that motherfucker is a little bit more like attached, because the prosthetic leg came off, and this was like a $4,000 or $5,000 prosthetic leg. And if you had never been on the Dueling Dragons ride, yeah, there is a lake down at the bottom. They actually had to drain the whole entire lake to be able to find this guy's $5,000 prosthetic leg. I would have been like, dude, sorry about it, but you need to go pound sand, because that's exactly, we're not responsible for any of the stuff. That is why they have lockers for you to be able to put your stuff in before you go on some of these roller coasters at Universal Studios. So I really don't feel bad for you at all. But yeah, this guy was in an accident, and this is straight up Florida, man. Only could have happened in Florida that you get hit by a car or you get into an accident and somebody steals your Marvel-inspired prosthetic leg while you're hurt and you're close to dying.
Stolen from a man after he was hit by a car. Well, the good news is that the leg has been found. Here's the photo. It shows the moment police were able to return the leg to his wife a few hours ago. Christopher Harris was the one.
Such a redneck story. Such a redneck story. Even though that it is Marvel, can I tell you, I used to be afraid. This is a story that me and my dad used to talk about all the time. My grandfather, on my dad's side, he had, I think it was his right leg was missing from fighting in the war, or I don't know. I think it might have been he had cancer. I was so young and really, really don't remember it. But man, I was scared to death of his prosthetic leg, because my grandpa, Ernest Fowler, would tell me that there was a monster down inside his leg. So when he would take his leg off, you know how you got that little like pouch that you can stick the nub in? He said that there was like a monster down in there. And every time he would take that leg off, he'd be like, "Hey boy, come over here, boy." And I'd be like, nope, I'm good. And he would like, all right, man, stick your hand down in there. You know, be a man. That monster ain't going to do anything to you if you ain't scared. So for the longest time, I think this might be a part of my childhood trauma. I mean, that is the least of my childhood trauma with some of the fucked up things that have happened to me. But it's one of those fond memories. The other memory that I used to have was that my dad ended up killing like this 9-point, 10-point deer. And he had it stuffed and it was on the wall. And I used to have nightmares. I was terrified of that fucking deer head because I always thought that deer was going to come out of the wall and avenge the death. You know, like if you are a deer and you got killed by somebody, I mean, what would be the greatest like revenge that you could have if you could come out of the wall and be an entire complete deer? To kill the firstborn and only child of the man that killed you and had you stuffed and put into a wall. Yeah, that is the type of fucked up nightmares that I would have every single night. Hell, you know what? I couldn't even be alone in the living room. When my parents went to bed, I went to bed because I did not want to be alone in the living room with that goddamn deer head because I was scared to death of the fucking deer coming out of the wall and avenging its death by killing my dad's only son.
Who was hit while in the crosswalk on 5th Avenue North at 49th Street around 10 o'clock last night. He was rushed to the hospital where he continues to fight for his life. But during the accident, his prosthetic leg flew off, hit another car. Police say somebody then picked up the leg and took it from the accident scene. Family members say they're thankful to the officer who worked throughout the night to locate the prosthetic.
Okay, I'm sorry that you lost your leg. I really, really am. I don't know, maybe you shouldn't go over the top and get a very, very expensive leg that is painted with all the Marvel characters, the Avengers. You know, like, I mean, you should be able to carry a leg around like that, but are we really, 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 like, I mean, there are a lot bigger things to do in the community than wasting cops' time on trying to find a goddamn prosthetic leg. You can't tell me that this prosthetic leg was not insured. You can't tell me that this prosthetic leg wasn't covered over Medicare or something. Or did this guy just have to be over the top? Maybe he was such a nerd that he had to look, I'm the biggest nerd in the world, and I'm telling you right now, if I get my leg chopped off, I'm not getting a motherfucking Avengers theme. I'm just getting I'm getting one of those like futuristic, like Blade Runner legs, like that Oscar Pistoria guy that ended up like shooting his wife and killing her. Yeah, those are the type of legs that I want. Maybe I might actually be able to run for once in my life if I had those type of legs, but I'm not getting a Marvel leg, and I'm damn sure not wasting police officers' time and money to find the expensive leg that I lost because I got hit.
Somebody can steal the leg of a dying man. How does somebody do that? He's really proud of it. It's got Marvel characters. He loves the Avengers. And if he doesn't survive, it's the only thing my daughter has.
Why does this remind me of the scene when Christopher Walken in Pulp Fiction walks in and he's got that like little shitty-ass pocket watch that he gives to Bruce Willis? And he's like, oh, I had to keep this big hunk of metal stuffed up my ass because if Charlie found out that I had this in my ass, they would confiscate it. Your dad died of dysentery, which means he shit himself to death. So he gave me this watch, and I stuck it up my ass to hold on to it for you until I got out of it. Until I was not a prisoner of war, I kept this big pocket watch up my ass so Charlie couldn't find it, and I could give it to you. That's exactly what this is. How redneck, how Florida-like is it that you want your daughter, which, listen, you know what? I just lost my father, so I probably should not be talking. I should not probably be making fun of the light of the situation. I probably need to check in. I don't even know if this guy died or not, but at least they got the leg back, and the woman, the daughter can be like, hey, you see that Marvel leg over there? You know, the one with the Avengers on it? Yeah, it says Avengers Assemble. Got Captain America with the shield. He's got Thor Thor with his Mjolnir. Mjolnir. I know that sounds very redneck when you say Mjolnir. I think that's how you say the name of the hammer. Oh, Black Widow. The one that doesn't have any superpowers, along with that guy that can shoot the bow really, really well. And then the guy that's got the heart problems, he made himself that suit. And then you got the big green guy that just hulks up and he smashes things. Yep, that's my leg. That's the last thing I got to remember my daddy of.
Well, late this afternoon, somebody called police and told them the leg was behind a laundromat, along with some other discarded items.
Yeah, you want to know why it's behind a laundromat? Good luck trying to pawn a leg that is all over the TV right now that has the Avengers all over it. Yeah, you're going to get caught immediately. You're going to get caught immediately. So what I'm trying to say is that's why it was found behind a laundromat.
The crash still under investigation. As for the driver, we are told the driver of the SUV who hit Harris is cooperating.
For a while there, it was getting really, really tiring with the whole Florida man stories. Florida man did this, Florida man did that. At first I was like, that's a little thing that will go away. But it hasn't. It hasn't, because you want to know why? It's the goddamn truth. All the weird people come here. Florida's whole economy is built on a Ponzi scheme. We need a certain amount of people to move here on a daily basis just to be able to survive as a state. A lot of people haven't thought about this. Last year, with all the tourism not being around because of the coronavirus pandemic, we're going to be way under budget in the state of Florida because we have no state income tax here. We all depend on that 6 cents, on the dollar tax when you buy goods and services here. We didn't get that. So, yeah, it is a little bit of a Ponzi scheme. And one of the greatest quotes that I've ever heard from the great Billy Corbin, not the guy from the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corbin, the director that did the U Part 1 and Part 2, the Cocaine Cowboy, Screwball, all those great documentaries about Florida. He says, Florida is a sunny place for shady people to hide. Gonna take a quick break, wrap up the show right after this. You are listening to the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
Wish you could have just flown and had your vehicle arrive a day or two later so you can enjoy more time doing what's important to you? Well, you can. Just give Starfire Transport a call. Let the professionals do the driving while you're flying. Starfire Transport specializes in RV and auto transport. They'll also haul watercraft from boats to PWCs, cargo trailers, and more. Service available throughout the continental United States. So don't wait. Call Brian today at 574-349-4193 or 989-751-6106 for your next move. 10% off for veterans past or present. Also, make sure to tell them Tuddle sent you for an additional discount. That's Starfire Transport. Want to support the show? Go to paypal.me/Tuddle on the radio.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tuddle Daily Podcast, the last segment of today's show. I asked you guys, there's a couple of ways you can get a hold of me. You can email me, tuddle@gmail.com, or leave me a voicemail, 407-270-3044. Yesterday, I was talking about my attempts at trying to get back on terrestrial radio somewhere. I don't want you guys to think that I'm going to stop doing the podcast, because I'm not going to stop doing the podcast. This is my baby. I've worked on it too hard. I'm not going to let my supporters down, the ones that download the podcast on a daily basis. But I talked about my chances, that how Russ was trying to get me on maybe once every other week, maybe once a month, maybe doing some type of bit, man on the street, stunt stuff, whatever it may be. And I can't blame Russ for doing this. Russ has got a great crew around him. The last thing I want to do is mess that up, but he ended up having to go and asking the people on his show. He didn't have to. He really, really didn't have to, because it is Russ's show. Like it or not, yes, it's called The Monsters, but it is hosted by Russ Rollins. It is his show. I mean, he's the only one that has been there the whole entire time. Nobody else can say that. Nobody else can say that in the inception of the Monsters in the Morning, Monsters of the Midday, just the Monsters alone. Nobody else can say that except Russ Ray Rollins, Triple R. But he wanted to, because this is the type of guy he is, he wanted to make sure that the people on his show were going to be okay with it. And I asked you guys to leave me a voicemail and let me know, see who you thought was the one, because there was one person on the show that cock-blocked me. One person that said that they did not want me on. Now, Russ did not tell me. I want to make that very, very clear. Russ did not tell me. But I have a little inside info of knowing who it was the person was. And like I said, I'm not mad at this person. I actually like this person a lot. I have nothing but respect for him. Do I think it's a little fucked up? Yeah, of course I do. Because I would never, ever in a million years keep somebody from trying to make a living. I wouldn't do it.
Hey, Tuds. It's your voiceover production guy, Josh. Just listening to the latest episode about how you were so hatefully cock-blocked from the Monsters. And you said, you know what? If you have a guess who it is, let me know. So I don't know if you're going to confirm it or not, but 100% my mind immediately went to Carlos.
Josh, look, you do a lot for me, and you know that I would be completely open and honest with you. It was not Carlos. Carlos, I have a great relationship with Carlos. I think Carlos is a pretty cool guy, and Carlos has always been checking on me and stuff. And no, it was not Carlos at all. Carlos is, maybe old Carlos, but, new Carlos, positive Carlos, take it to the top Carlos. No, it was not Carlos Blackbean Navarro at all. It just wasn't. And I'm being open and honest. It was not him.
And if it was Carlos Blackbean, fuck that guy. He's got more skeletons in his closet than anybody. Anyway, love you, buddy. Talk to you soon. Bye.
I'm sorry. I hate to admit this. We all have skeletons in our closet. I've got plenty of skeletons in my closet. Matter of fact, I can't even open my skeleton closet because it is so jam-packed that I'm just afraid that all the skeletons will come down in like some big-ass avalanche of skeletons from my past. So, yeah. I'm sure he does. We all have skeletons in our closet. But I know for a fact it was not Carlos. All right, guys, gonna get out of here. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure you vote for me, Tuddle.net/vote. Vote for me, Best of Orlando, Best of Podcast, not on the radio. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
And that's the show for today. Thanks for listening to the Tuddle Daily Podcast. Hey, don't be a dickhead. Do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe to the show. Also, check out the Tuddle category at 315live.com. The Tuddle Daily Podcast is brought to you by Starfire Transport, StitchYouUp.com, and PocketPairClub.com. Special thanks to show producer Vulture and co-host Sirach. Show voiceover service is brought to you by jcvoiceover.com and The Little Cheese Show. Download and subscribe to The Little Cheese Show everywhere podcasts are found. If you want to help support the show, go to paypal.me/Tuddle on the radio. You have something you want to say? Tuddle@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 407-270-3044. To follow all Tuddle social media, go to Tuddle.net. That's Tuddle with 2Ds.net. Thanks again for all your support, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Tuddle Daily Podcast.
A society grows great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in. Good people do things for other people. That's it, the end.